Players and commanders in Rise of Kingdoms all do different things. Maybe they can garrison structures, maybe they can rally those structures, or maybe they do the most common thing, and that is open field fighting. And in today's video, I'm going to be ranking every commander in the game based on how well they do on the open field. So if you want to know the current open field meta for Rise of Kingdoms, maybe you're looking for some possible commander choices to make your murder ball stronger right now, you definitely want to stick around till the end of the video as I rank all of these commanders super in depth. Now let's start off super quickly by saying how am I going to rank these commanders. Obviously I can just chuck a bunch of people on a tier list and you can just guess why I put them there, but that is not the point of today's video. The point of today's video is to rank every single commander based on like 3 or 4 main things. The biggest thing I'm going to look at is how well are they doing on the open field right now. Are they a strong open field commander? Are their trades good? Do they work well with some of the best commanders? Or are their trades not so good? Do they not work so well as some of these commanders? I don't even care if they're a rally or garrison. That doesn't add any extra points on this list. This list is for pure open field usages only. I will mention if a commander has a lot of rally or garrison potential as well, because obviously that's something some players want to know. But if a commander can rally, that doesn't matter. If they can do well on Sunset Canyon, that doesn't really matter here. Our goal is to see who works the best on the open field, who trades the best with other commanders, who has really good debuffs, who has AoE, who has a really good single target damage. That is the goal of today's video, not really to look at who's a garrison, who's a rally, who can work in other game modes. It's just who's the strongest commander compared to the other commanders and who can trade the best. With that out of the way though, let's switch over to the tier list. So now here is the tier list, and you'll be able to see there are 6 different tiers, and every single tier means something different. Obviously, the top tier is the best trades. These are the commanders that pretty much every single time you run them, will get a good or a strong trade. And then you've got the very, very good trades. These are the commanders which will trade well in pretty much every single situation. No matter how you look at it, these commanders are strong and they will trade well. Then you've got your decent choice. These are commanders which will trade fairly well or have other uses, like maybe they're really debuff heavy, maybe they have a lot of DPS but lack in terms of defensive stats, or maybe they used to be really strong, still have their uses now but aren't your main choice. Then you've got your rare usages. Some accounts will get lots of value from these commanders, other accounts won't really. You got your bad trades. These are commanders which don't really trade very well, they can work but aren't usually your top choice. And finally, your absolute trash. These are commanders that are just the bottom of the barrel, you shouldn't run them on the open field, and they will never really ever trade well. So now to start off today's tier list, we're starting with Gorgo, and I'm putting her in the best trade. She's going to be there probably for the next 2, 3, 4 months for the open field, because she's just a really, really strong commander, and she's one of the 2 commanders in the game that can deal smite damage, and not to mention, she's probably Lao Che's best pairing, so she's definitely worthy of the best trade section. She trades really well, she works amazingly with Lao Che, and I will mention she is a garrison, even though that's not taken into account. Then we got Ethelfled. She's just a rare usages. You only really use her with Trajan, you can use her with Saladin, but she's not your number 1 choice. She does have solid debuffs though. Nevsky, easily best trade, strongest cav commander in the game in my opinion, crazy single target damage, fairly tanky for a cav commander, decent march speed, crazy skill damage. You can't really go wrong with Nevsky, not to mention he has a good debuff. Alexander the Great is going to go into decent choice. The reason I'm putting him there is because he's literally just a decent choice. He works well with commanders like CPO, he can trade pretty decently, he's got city popping potential, and in my opinion, city popping is part of the open field. He's good in KVK 2 and 3, he's got a shielding effect, he's just an all-around fairly decent commander. His stats though are pretty low and his damage is low in comparison to most of the meta commanders. Attila is a rare usage in my opinion. He's good for a whale account especially that's looking to get tons of kills. Free to play low spenders though is not your number 1 choice, and he can trade very well, but only if you've got higher crystal tech or really good cav gear. Xiao Xiao is a bad trades commander. He's not absolute trash, I've seen some okay things with him. He's good in KVK 1 and 2, and if you double relic him, he's usable in KVK 3, but he's not your number 1 go-to choice, and in higher seed KVKs, he's pretty much unusable. Hermann Prime is just going to go straight into the best trades tier. He's probably the strongest archer commander in the game, the second strongest commander in the game for archers. Really good debuff, solid AoE, solid damage boost, and he's a fairly tanky commander if you do get him ramped up. Chandragupta is definitely going to go into the rare usages. He's going to go here as one of the better commanders in that tier, because he's just that. He's used in some cav murder balls, and he's not your number 1 choice. He's got good debuffs, he's got solid damage, but he's not the strongest commander in the game. You'd only run him if you're using 3 to 4 cav marches, and most players are not really doing that. Charlemagne is absolute trash. Charles Martel, I would say, is actually a rare usages as well. He's got his strength in Season 1 and 2, but he's not your number 1 pick in Season 3 and Season of Conquest. Once you reach Season of Conquest, most Archer marchers annihilate him, most stacked cav marchers like Nevsky's will beat him, and all infantry marchers that are better than Charles Martel, well, they will literally just beat him. So he's got his uses, but he's not your number 1 pick. CJ is also a rare usages commander. A lot of commanders going in this tier right now. He's decent. I mean, like, there's nothing more to say about him. Nothing spectacular in his kit, but he's not absolute trash. And then you've got commanders like Cleopatra. She's useless. I'll just put all the gathering commanders in there now because you really can't use them at all on the open field, so they don't really deserve the biggest mention. And there's Ashita. And then we've got Constantine. He's just going to go in the bad trades. He's one of those commanders which is like, he's okay in Season 2 and 3. He's got an okay potential as a buff march, but he's not really good on the open field. He's not the worst, he's not the best, he's just a pretty bad commander overall though. Gilgamesh, rare usages, he's got some potential for the open field, decent debuff, decent damage between his debuff, like his other debuffs and also his active skill, but he's definitely not the top commander in the game. YSS is going to go into absolute trash, pretty much no use there, same with Zenobia. Edit of Woodstock, bad trades, he can do okay with the crazy amount of stats that he does have, but his damage factor is really trash. LCD is going to go into bad trades as well. He's got some potential, but he's not your number 1 pick. Frederick is absolute trash in my opinion. Khan, he's got decent damage factor. His relic is decent, but once again, he's not the strongest commander. His trades are only really okay with Nevsky, and that's because Nevsky is carrying that combination. So Khan, not your number 1 pick, but if you do have him and you get his relic, he can work on the open field in some situations. Hannibal Barca is absolute trash. And then we've got Harold. He's going to go into decent choices. The reason I'm putting him in there is fairly simple. Harold is just a decent choice. He's a really good city popping march. Lots of instant damage, he's got a fair amount of counterattack, and he's really in there for the same reasons as Alex. He's a strong city-popping commander who has open field potential and works really well with commanders like CPO even, Pakal, commanders even like Alex will work really well with Harold. So he's a very good instant damage commander, but he's not your number 1 pick. Hondo is also going to go into decent choice. He's probably going to be the top commander of that tier because he's just a really good secondary to pretty much anybody. I don't think there's a single commander in the game that doesn't work well with Hondo. He's just all around a fairly strong commander and you can't really go wrong with him, but he definitely doesn't trade as good as some of the commanders that will be in the tiers above him. Bertrand is going to go into rare usages. As a cav commander, he's not the worst. As a rally, he's not the worst either. He's not your number 1 pick, but he can work. And for the open field, he's not the worst. He can work well with like 3-4 cav marchers. If you have him expertise, he'll trade fine, but he's not your number 1 pick. Artemisia is going to go into decent choice. She works really well with Boudica Prime, but she does lack in terms of damage factor and stats in general, but she can deal some pretty high, basically all damage with her 3rd or 4th skill. So Artemisia's got a lot of potential for the open field, but she's definitely not, once again, one of your number 1 picks. Suleiman is completely useless. Lao Che, straight in the best trades, no doubt about that. AoE, crazy smite damage, extra normal attacks. Just a very, very strong commander all around. Probably the best, if not the second best commander in the whole entire game. Cyrus are going to go into rare usages. I personally do use him, but he's not the strongest commander. There's no doubt in my mind that he's not up there with those best commanders in the game, but there's definitely not down there with some of the bad trades and the absolute trash. He's got his uses, he's got some good debuffs, decent damage, decent revenge damage as well, but he's not the strongest commander. Guan is going to go into very good trades because his debuff is very much a hard carry here. If you're running a Guan, the silence is insane, and his synergy with CPO is also very strong. So Guan, definitely worthy of very good trades, but he will never ever be in the best trades again, and in my opinion, it's only downhill for him from here. CPO is going to go into best trades, very self-explanatory, AoE, health debuff, really strong stats, tons of shielding, and also an all damage reduction. Can't really go wrong with him. Pakal is going to go into decent choices, very strong with Harold, just a very good anti-swarm march and a very good city-popping march. Once again, solid commander, but not your top commanders. Leonidas is going to go into bad trades. He's pretty outdated nowadays, but I've seen some players in lower seed kingdoms still run him with Guan, and it can work in those KVKs. Nebu is worthy of the decent choice tier for trades, in my opinion. He has some okay AoE, he's got some okay damage, he works well with YSG, well with Zulang, but he's not your number 1 pick. Then you've also got yourself a Joan Prime, and she is probably up there with some of the strongest cap commanders in the game, the best secondary in my opinion, and she's just going to trade really good. Double AoE, crazy damage, fairly good sustain with the march speed, and she can get out of a lot of tough fights. Jedwiga is absolutely trash for the field. Jan Ziska is actually going to go into the bad trades. He's not absolutely trash because he does have an AoE and I've seen some okay stuff with him. Julius Caesar is going to go into rare usages. The reason he goes here instead of bad trades is because with commanders like Hao Bing, Zhang Yu, and even Gorgo, he works really well because he's increasing their all damage and their shorter rage cycles means he can increase it even quicker and for a longer period of time. So Julius Caesar with certain commanders, those three I just mentioned especially, is really strong. Lubu is going to go into bad trades. His debuff is okay. He's got okay stats, but every other commander above him is going to be stronger, though he's definitely not in the absolute trash. I'm going to put Ashurbanipal into very good trades. He's actually very solid right now. He's almost like a better version of Nebu in every way, plus his expertise is really strong. So I'm a big fan of Ashurbanipal, but he's definitely not going to reach that best trades, and once again, it's probably only downhill for him from this point onwards. Mehmet is worthy of the decent choice. He's like a cheaper version of Honda. He trades very well. His double relic is nice, and he's got some decent AoE. Minamoto is worthy of the very good trades. He's probably going to be the bottom of this tier, but he's very strong. I mean, for the price he is and for the trades he gets, he can be very powerful as a single target commander, crazy DPS. Put him with Nevsky, you're set for a first march in Season 3. Put him with just about any Cav commander, once again he's going to trade pretty good. Mulan is going to go into rare usages with Trajan. She's strong. As a support march, she's strong, but she's not your number one pick. Ditto is also going to go into bad trades. I mean, she's an okay commander for the open field. She's good for like 5 or 6 archer marches. Once again, though, she's not very amazing, and there's nothing in her kit for the open field that's like very spectacular because she's really just a garrison commander. Ragnar is going to go into bad trades. He's an okay secondary to Attila. That's pretty much all he can do. Ramsey is going to go into rare usages. If you don't have a Nevsky and you do have a Ramses, you can consider running him for his debuff. His single target damage is okay. It's almost up to standard. He's got some okay stats throughout his whole kit, but he's a very temperamental commander. A lot of his stuff is reliant on just triggering through normal attacks, and a lot of his damage is from additional damage factor, which doesn't really work too well nowadays, with it being skill damage or a smite damage meta. I'm going to put Richard into bad trades. I mean, he rarely gets a good trade nowadays. His healing is more of a disadvantage, but as a tanky commander, he can sometimes work. Saladin is good in rare usages. I think that at this point, he's really there for Season 2 and 3. He can work okay with Nevsky and okay with Ethelfled, but he's not your number one pick nowadays, and pretty much every good archer march is going to beat him, so he can't really beat much on the open field, though he does have some uses. Flavius is going to go into probably the bad trades all the way at the end. He's almost in absolute trash, but he's got okay damage factor for like 8 infantry marches if that existed. He would be usable, and if you have missing some infantry commanders and you do have him, you could use him on the open field. Wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it. Boudica is going to go into very good trade. She's just a very good archer commander, really good debuffs, really good single target damage, and you can't really go wrong with her, but I'd say Hermann and Zulang are going to be better than her. Henry's going to go into very good as well. He's definitely worse than Boudica, in my opinion, worse than Ashurbanipal as well, but he's got really good single target damage. He's very tanky, works well with Zulang, really well with YSG. In my opinion, probably his best pairing is actually with YSG, and he's a very strong archer commander. Moctezuma only there for barbarian forts. Zulang, in my opinion, is the second, if not the strongest art commander in the game. Compared to Lache, they're probably on an even scale because of how strong they are. Both got AoE, really crazy damage on Zulang, double AoE, increased skill damage, archer health. Can't really go wrong with him, probably one of the best options in the game to use on the open field. Tarek is just going to go into very good trades. I mean, he's a very solid infantry commander, good trades all around. He can get decent kills, he's really good damage factor, he's got a rage reduction, just a strong infantry commander in general. Hauche being definitely the third strongest cav commander in the game, crazy single target damage, fast rage cycle, but he can be difficult to run on the open field with jumping in and out of resource nodes not working. You can't city pop with him, and he's a bit of a weird commander to use. You have to wait 30 seconds before you enter combat. Stuff like that is very weird, but he's definitely got his strengths, and he can definitely be a very strong commander. In some situations, he can outshine Nevsky, but those situations are pretty rare. Usually, Nevsky is a better choice. Heraclius is going to go into bad trades. He's got an AoE. If he gets hit on the open field on his way to a garrison, he's going to trade alright, but he's definitely not a open field commander I would deliberately use. Sargon is going to go into very good trades. He's definitely a solid infantry commander, probably a little bit better than Minamoto, but he's not the strongest infantry commander. Thing to note though is he can jump between combat and deal extra damage if you time it right, but he's not the strongest commander in the game. Justinian is going to go into rare usages, probably just at the top of that tier. He's a strong cav commander, no doubt about it, but he's not one of the strongest, and he's definitely got his uses as a rally, but that's not the point of this tier list. Thumos is going to go into decent choice. I mean, I've seen some really interesting stuff with him in terms of crazy damage, and also with his double relic. he can be a very strong commander. The thing he does lack on though is his actual damage factor. While he can do decent damage, he needs good damage factor, and he just does not have that in his kit. Pyrus is going to go into rare usages. He's got his usages with Lao Che and also maybe a little bit with Gorgo, but he's not your number one pick. But if you do put him with those commanders, he will trade pretty well and he will work fairly decently. Then you've got Margaret. She's going to go into decent choice. You're going to put Barber in there as well. They're both pretty good for ranged commanders. If you have siege gear, if you're running them correctly, they will trade pretty damn well. Armanatori is just a rare usage. You use it with Artemisia, she will trade well. Takeda, bad trades, only works with Attila, very same reasons as Ragnar. Theodora is useless. Tamiris is a decent choice in my opinion. The reason she goes here is because she works really well with Hermann Prime. That's the only reason she's on this list in that high tier, but if Hermann Prime wasn't in the game, she'd probably be in rare usages, if not in the bad trades, but because of her synergy with Hermann, she definitely is worth the invest if you're running like 4 or 3 Archer Marchers. Trajan is also a decent choice. I mean, as a support commander, he's the best in the game, really tanky, and people who do attack him, you will notice that they're attacking your Trajan and you can attack them with your other Marchers. William is worthy of the very good trades in my opinion. Really good debuffs. He's got AoE, he's got a good buff for your murder ball. Can't really go wrong with William, and he's a very solid choice. Wu Zetian is useless. Zhang Yu is going to go into the decent choice. I'd say he's maybe actually the strongest in that tier. He's got an AoE, he's got a faster rage cycle, and he's got a decent amount of skill damage. Once again, you can't really go wrong with him. The final commander on this list though is YSG, and he's going to go into the decent choice as well. I'm going to put him probably with Alex. I mean, they're both really good KVK 2 and 3 commanders. YSG really good in KVK 1 as well, and they have value in Season of Conquest. YSG though, definitely is starting to fall off a little bit, but he's still a very solid commander, and if you have him, you can definitely still run him, and I personally do use him, but I can't say that he works better than Zhu Lang, he doesn't work better than Boudica, doesn't work better than Henry, he's just there as a very strong secondary archer commander, who will trade well if needed. So now here is the tier list in its final form, from the commanders in the best trades all the way down to the absolute trash, reorganized. I didn't organize the absolute trash, I never do because you just never use these commanders, but for every single tier, they're organized from the best of that tier down to the worst of that tier. So if you're at the top of the decent trades, for example, you're just a little bit weaker than, let's say, the commander that's in the tier above. So for example, Lao Che and Zhu Lang are the best of best trades, and then Gorgo is the worst of that tier. And then for decent trades, in my opinion, Zhang Yu is the best, and then I would say the siege commanders are the worst because they're the most difficult to use. And then you got Attila at the best of rare usages and Amanatori at the worst. And you can follow that order all the way down to the bad trade section, and you'll be able to find out, in my opinion, the best order for the strongest commanders in the game. So now that we've made it to the end of today's video, I'd like you guys to know that as of this video, I am currently not in Australia, so my Wi-Fi access is not the best. But I do have a request from you guys, and that is consider joining the Archer Syndicate Discord. When I am back in my home country, I'll be responding to your messages on Discord, I'll be chatting in the Discord server, answering questions. I really do love that server. If you guys want to join, ask me questions, ask questions about Archer accounts, even infantry and cav accounts, it's probably one of the best Rise of Kingdoms servers. So the link will be in the pinned comment and also in the description. Check it out, join the server. If you don't like it, feel free to leave, but trust me, you guys are definitely going to enjoy it. The server has like over 500 of you guys in there, so if you want to join, you will definitely find it worthwhile. I post a bunch of stuff on there like the More Than Gems predictions, everything you need for a Rise of Kingdoms account. So you'll love that Discord server. Trust me, go and join it. Now, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.